Okay, guys, this is going to be the introduction to a series that we're going to have Tom Sheppard do on case studies of clients that he works with. I want to preface this by saying, to put a little bit of context in here, that I've been in this industry, strength and conditioning, powerlifting, since 1982. And I would put, because he's not going to say this himself, I would put Tom up there as one of the top 3 coaches that I've ever known or had the privilege to work with. And I can say this confidently because I've seen how he does the education on film. I've seen the webinars, I've seen the articles, and I've seen how he works with people in person as far as in groups and and individuals for the past 3 years if we go on and off, but yeah. the past year solid. So I'm saying this with confidence in that. And when he's working with his clients, I don't want the misconception to go out that they're only powerlifters and they're only strength athletes, and that's where the flag is planted. He's, for lack of a better word, holistic coach. So looking at all the variables outside of just the training, because he's been helping me for only a few weeks here, but nothing he's doing with me involves the training aspect. Mm-hmm. It's everything outside of the training aspect, because that's where there's holes mm-hmm. that need to be filled in there. And we have Alex out here, who I reached out to in 2018 in regards to heart issues I was dealing with at the time. So I'll provide a very brief summary and then kind of let these guys go over from there. In 2018, I was dealing with arrhythmias that were really bad. If you've been listening to the podcast or following, it ended with 2 ablations, so one for the right chamber, one for the left chamber. So I'm in this post-ablation period. So there was heart issues that I've had to deal with over the years. Some other context in there is I live with joint pain. So it's when people ask me things like, well, what is your joint pain on a scale of 1 to 10? I don't know how to answer that, because when you always live in a 6 or a 7, that kind of becomes your 2. Sure. So it becomes a weird thing to be able to ask. And the reason why Tom has been helping over the past few weeks or so is I've been using Merrick Health and Dr. Eric Serrano and other people for many, many years as far as blood work. And my blood work the last time was good. Mm-hmm. It was actually really good, but I've had it be good before in the past, and then it goes south. So one of the main goals is to not let it go to shit again, right? So the lifestyle factor is kind of keeping those all in line. The other thing is, after talking to Tom, my REM and deep sleep is for shit, but my total sleep is good. The way my training is set up is my hard training days are Saturday and Sunday. The training days during the week are pretty much 100% cardio based, with maybe, if we talk about maximum or efficiency, mm-hmm. 10 hard work sets from the resistance training standpoint throughout the week, and I scale that up. So there is some context there that the weekends are heavy loaded, and the weeks are not. As far as work schedule and how that lays out, I probably work 60 to 70 hours a week, just like anybody else that has a company. And am I leaving anything else out?
So, I just remembered looking at this now that I called it Operation Be Less Fucked Up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the goals were maintain the current good health markers, manage cognitive workload better. 60 to 70. It's not 60 to 70 hours of half scrolling through Facebook either, like most people who would say I work 60 to 70 hours. There's probably an over-reliance on modafinil and nicotine. And Dave's main training goal is a 3 times bodyweight squat in his squat variation that he uses. And we needed to get his protein intake higher. So the main concerns from looking at blood work and talking were both kidney and liver function. As you've espoused in many of your videos, they're very much tied together, and those scores definitely could have been better. The concern, obviously, with the ablations is calcification scores, which were fine, but obviously it's a very sensitive sort that we need to be very on top of. His lipid panel, for the same reason, low SHBG, high estradiol, cortisol came out high, no shock there, and elevated lipoprotein A.
Okay.
Those were the main things that kind of stuck out there. Okay. So that's what we're dealing with. So I'll probably just, I think the easiest way is to read through this, what's been put out, and then you can just say, I would do this instead, or I would add this in. Maybe that's not appropriate. This is, like I said, this is nerve-wracking for me because I'm going to get scored now and be graded. After that wonderful introduction, I'm going to get a D-. So let's see how this goes. So
that just validates what I said, though.
Yeah,
because you're willing to have that and to learn.
Okay, I'll take that. Thank you.
D.
Yeah, I said one word. Okay, the only way is, I would say the only way is up. No, it's not. So, kidney and liver function, some of the things that we've put in are astragalus upon waking, 1 gram. That's a daily thing that we put in. And again, you just make a comment anytime.
Add another gram before bed. You can push up to about 3 grams, 6 grams total per day.
Yeah.
You can take an EGFR, like the actual mRNA synthetic process. You can push EGFRs from like 46 to like 75 just with astragalus. It's a really cool compound.
Awesome. Do you want to make notes as we go through? I put in there as well BPC, 250 micrograms to be dosed daily.
Yes. What time of day?
I haven't put anything specific in there.
If we could do that, if we could do that before bed with 25 micrograms of hexarelin, we were talking beforehand about the ablation. You can start to basically re-heal those cells in that area and then start remodeling the heart with a low microdose of hexarelin and BPC longer term.
Sure. Okay. Glutathione will also be in there as well. But that comes in later related to heart and the lipid panel, which we'll go over in a sec. I also made sure that now pre-workout, he was adding in fruit pre-workout to maintain his liver glycogen stores and make sure they're not getting liberated during his workout. Then, so we move on to the heart health and the lipid panel. Obviously, calcification score is an issue. His lipids were actually too low.
Okay.
So his cholesterol is at 132.
Okay.
Okay, so you've mentioned before more like 200, 180, 200 is probably a good place to be. His HDL's okay. It's at like 40, but maybe could be a bit higher. And LDL was at 70.
Okay. So what's in play for those?
So there we go. So at first, because his deep sleep and REM sleep was also in the tank, like what were you getting? Like 15,
30 minutes of each.
Okay.
In a 9-hour sleep window.
Yeah.
So first off, what we put in was daily sub-Q vitamin C, glutathione, and injectable L-carnitine at night, alongside 500 milligrams of taurine.
Awesome. What doses of everything?
So, 125 milligrams of vitamin C, 100 milligrams of glutathione, 50 milligrams of L-carnitine, and 400 to 500.
A+. Perfect.
Awesome. So that's the main thing that I put in for now for heart health, because I think that's going to hit the heart health, hopefully, but also the sleep quality, which is a huge factor here in also many of these things.
So then what about the cell membrane structure? Because you also have the low cholesterol.
Sure.
So like the plasmalogens, like 2 caps of neuron, the AM, 2 caps glia before bed, they're structurally integral to brain, cardiac, renal, hepatic tissue. So those can kind of, I don't want to say replace your fish oils, but can be layered on top of your EPA, DHA with more efficiency. If we have that and then something called NT factor, it's a glycophospholipid replacement therapy. So that's literally just what your cell membranes thrive off of. Sure. If you have those, that'd be 3 things, then also a hydroxytyrosol supplement. It's like Island Nutrition. They have a really good olive oil extract product.
I got it in my cupboard.
Yeah, there you go, right? You have cap of that upon waking before bed. That'll start to really drive up the HDL functionality. And if you want to get crazy, a low dose of GW 50, 15, 16, that'll... Cardarine, yep. At 5 milligrams, that's going to push up HDL by generally about 10 to 15 points. It'll pull down overall inflammatory markers.
True. Now, I suppose a little bit of context to this, obviously, is gold. Thank you. This was already, what I'm reading out was to be put on top of what Dave was already taking. Which was, should we say, a pain, would be fair to say. Yeah. Like, he's got a lot of stuff to take already. So part of the goal was not to overload as well. But this is all great because now we can build phases in here.
Yeah, I'll throw everything at you, and it could be like month 1 month. You can rotate things. You could do all that stuff.
Cool. So for his blood panel, we needed RBC, hematocrit, and hemoglobin in a better place. They're too high, as we would probably expect. How high? I don't have that written down on here from memory, but they weren't great. But much better than they have been. So what I put in here, what the hydroxytyrosol was going to come in later. Thank you for that. Inositol 6-phosphate, 1 gram AM and PM. Nattokinase 2000, which started at 2000. I thought could be bumped up, but that was done AM and PM also. And then also a baby aspirin.
So if you could layer on top of it, you don't have any carbon 60s or PQQs in play. So wizardsciences.com has a couple different formulas you'd probably want to err on the side of. Even their basic elixir RX has carbon 60, which is also good. So it's actually bound to an actual different fatty acids. You'll get more of a neurological driver. But the biggest thing is the carbon 60 driver to act as basically a sinkhole reservoir to pull oxidative load off your mitochondria. That's going to complement that entire panel. And if you wanted to, because there's that formula, there's also different ones. If you need like cerebral drivers or more physical drivers, you could get one or two of those, because it also has things like pyroquinol and quinone for fibrogen content to remove that from the brain and from other areas of the body. A lot of cool things like NMN and things like that in there as well. So you could literally, like, if you wanted one day where you want to drive more myologicals, like you're training on the Saturday and Sunday, you do a tablespoon of Olympic RX with your first meal of the day. That's in an olive oil, so it'll go more systemic. Whereas if you would do like throughout the weekdays, that's more like a neural RX. So it drives more lymphatic system drainage at night, so your brain recovers more during the weekdays.
Okay.
Cool. Another issue was his protein intake just needed to be higher in general. But obviously there were kidney concerns about his kidney function, things like that. So very simply, we started adding EAAs to his day. So he normally doesn't eat upon waking, so we added in 15 grams of EAA in the morning with his IG1, which is like a green supplement. And then another 10 grams, which probably could go up intra-workout to basically be the equivalent of a higher protein intake without having to overload protein, was the idea there.
Yeah, that's good.
And then...
What was EGFR at?
I don't have that on here right now.
So if it's sub 70, which isn't bad, but could be better if you're in the 60s, you could probably put in SS31 at about 1 to 5 milligrams a day, sub-Q.
Well, I was going to say, would that come in potentially as we try to bring the nicotine use down? Would that be useful there? Because I know it could be used for like when people are coming off caffeine, but would it be just as useful for like modafinil or nicotine as we're bringing those down?
It's usually not as chemically strong, and the doses you'd have to use to get that same response is usually like 20 milligrams, 30 milligrams. Like it's a higher dose, then it's so expensive. So then usually SS31 is better for coming off the caffeines, not as much so for higher doses nicotines or modafinils.
Yeah, sure. So his SHBG was 21.
Okay.
So we made sure that we swapped to daily injections for now.
Perfect.
For his TRT dose to see what effect that has. And then we move on to his cognition support, just basically for his workload in general. So the idea is that to put all of this in place so that when we start to bring the modafinil and nicotine out, he's in a better place to function without it. So, put all this in at first and then slowly start bringing all that down once this can start having an effect. So in there already as like a daily thing is DHEA at 100 milligrams, alpha GPC at 600, tiger milk at 600, and creatine monohydrate at 10 grams.
Okay.
That's like just every day as normal. Then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we started at 500 micrograms of Cimax. Okay. Again, Dave has not used that before, so that was just like our starting block. And then so far, nothing extra on Tuesday and Thursday yet.
Okay. What are the doses of modafinil and Zyn?
The modafinil, it's basically just on podcast days, and it would be 100 milligrams, so half a capsule.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
That's not.
And then, what's that?
I said that's what it is now. On here.
Yeah. And then the Zen pouches is like a whole can a day of the 6 milligrams, so whatever. It's like
decent amount.
Yeah, 70 milligrams. Right?
Yeah. Okay, so anytime you're doing a tapering scenario, we want to avoid withdrawal symptoms that you can get from any neurochemical compound like that. So to make it simple, if you can just go down by one pouch per week, over what would that be?
Oh, I went more than that. I went from the 6s to the 3s.
Oh,
and
nice.
then half of the times I'm using whatever, Tom, this alpha GPC pouch.
Tyrosine and
okay. Well. So then what's your nicotine at now? Is that still a problem or no?
Probably half of what it was, easy.
So you're like, what, 30?
Yeah, if that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could slowly taper that over time then. You could start, if you're going to make a drop, replace it with something else.
Yeah, I don't even think for me it's the nicotine that creates any of the effect. It's just the feeling of it, something being in my lip.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
So that's more what, because it doesn't matter if it's that one or that one. I tell no difference.
Okay. True. Interesting. So
I tell no difference between the 3 or the 6 or whatever it's going to be.
That's okay. So whenever you do that action of putting into lip, into gums, what do you feel neurochemically? Like, do you feel anything? So what would happen if you didn't do anything?
If I didn't put it in there at all?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay.
Just be the same.
So
why don't I just stop?
Yeah.
I could. Yeah.
Or I mean, put like an ice cube. I don't know, something else in there, you know?
Well, that was the idea behind. I can't remember what's in those patches. I think it's L-theanine, tyrosine, alpha GPC. Brought those in as like a replacement for the nicotine pouches to like still try and get that.
Yeah, even like the micronized pregnenolone, those little tablets, 5 milligram tablets, because you could take like 20, 30 of those in the day and not have any problems.
Sure.
So if it's just the action you need, then yeah, you could swap it out. I mean, for anything.
Yeah.
You know, but it doesn't sound like you're in that bad of a position. Neurological speaking wise, energy throughout the day on the heavy work days, are you kind of getting a lot of work done early in the day and you kind of peter off? Do you have a lot of brain fog? What are the problems in
Right around 4 is when it will start to peter off, but that's usually about the time that I'll stop working from here, then go home.
Okay.
And then there's like an hour or so before I'll start working again. And in that hour, I live on a lake. I'm like just sitting staring at the lake and shit like that. So
that's cool though.
So it's a break because it's different type of work.
Yep.
You know, that I'm doing at home compared to here. It's more admin, you know, just getting shit done. You know, and then the more focused stuff is later. If without that break, that focus shit doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And if I go back to having the shitty labs again, that focus stuff is extremely forced. It's not that I can't not do it.
Yeah.
You know, I still have to do it.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between not wanting to do it and wanting to do it and really wanting to do it.
Have you ever heard of Lakovsky or Tesla coils?
No.
So what they are big circles. Okay. We're looking more at hertz and frequencies. So our cells internally, when they're healthy, are basically like at 100 millivolts. Cancer cells, and as we age, it goes down. So cancer cells like 30 millivolts. So as you're stressed throughout the day, it's just cellular voltage. So your electricity at a cellular level goes down. So those coils have a specific frequency that'll raise that voltage. So you sit down for 10 minutes, it literally just basically charges your cells from a voltage-based aspect via hertz exchange. So you could buy a product like that. So when you get home,
is this that yellow thing that Kanakin has?
No, that was different, but it's similar.
All right.
Kind of
Okay.
field,
Okay. All right.
You could do that. You could get the exogenous ketones. So you're more repleting your brain, pulling down neuroinflammation. You could also do more alpha GPC. Like you could do a lot of things either before you leave, on the drive home, or right when you get home.
Now those will not inhibit my sleep?
No.
Okay.
Like especially, so usually for exogenous ketones, you have a good 4 to 6 hours of energy. But if you need to sleep, you can go straight to sleep.
Okay.
Alpha GPC, again, depending on how you respond to 300 milligrams, most people aren't staying up from that. It's usually enough to get you through a couple hours, and then you're kind of good to fall asleep, because acetylcholine levels have to be high enough to allow you to go to sleep in the first place. So you know, whenever you like work too much, you can't fall asleep because you deplete too much acetylcholine.
All right.
That's
you have
why
3 options there to bring in. And you can rotate 2 daily, see which one you like better.
Yeah. So we have here on podcast days, YouTube lives, or anything like that. It's very demanding. Twice per week, 100 milligrams of modafinil, an extra 300 milligrams of alpha GPC, 10 milligrams of Nupept. Then immediately after taking that, sit down, read through the show notes, and then do the Elevate games.
There you go. Yeah.
And then now you're ready to start whatever the thing is. Or, that could be a very cognitively demanding task, whatever it is. And then Saturday and Sunday, no extra nootropic support, but 500 milligrams of urolithin A.
Okay. So on those days specifically, you could bring in about 3 milligrams of spermidine as well. So you have urolithin A recycling damaged mitochondria. Spermidine will basically recycle all the other damaged cells via autophagy. And then you could layer on a little bit of cerebral lysine on top of that. So that those days are really spent on just cleaning out the system, cleaning out the cells, clearing any inflammatory plaques, and to make sure your brain is ready to go to keep working.
In this scenario, so right now we have Monday, Wednesday, Friday Semax, which so far is going well. Maybe we'll probably go up to 1 milligram on that. On the Tuesday and Thursday, would you see cerebral lysine being a good option there for cognitive support, or would you keep that at the weekends when the workload is lower?
I'd keep it higher on the weekends when the workload is lower, because then you have the harder training, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of bridged the gap, because you were depleting your neural tissue on the weekdays and on the weekends just via different stressors. So you should probably get more neurological recovery from the cerebral lysine on the weekends, because those are the biggest heavy training days. You could start with 1 milliliter upon waking both days and work your way probably up to 5 or 10 milliliters.
Sure. Because then the other option for those Tuesday, Thursday days in the week, which are cognitively demanding, would be something like methylene blue.
Yeah, which you could also then bring in to pull down on overall inflammation. And then are those the days you have podcast guests?
They vary a bit.
Okay. So you can even do that anytime you have a guest coming in, 10 milligrams of methylene blue. Just so the antiviral, antibacterial, because you don't know what I'm bringing. With 4 kids from daycare and from school, like coughing on, sneezing, whatever, like sometimes that just to make sure you're not getting sick as well helps. There's also a couple different sprays, like biocidin is a really good throat spray. So before these kinds of events, you could just do a couple sprays on your throat. It'll drive up IgA levels and localized immune levels in the throat pretty dramatically well. Like I sprayed it before I got here. I'll do one before I leave just to make sure I'm not getting sick.
Yeah, what I'm looking for the podcast is the ability to pay attention and listen deeply.
Okay.
So that's where the modafinil and all that kind of help with that.
Okay.
Because when you have a guest out, you have to focus and listen, to what they're saying, and you can't like drift off.
Yep.
And if I don't have that and I do the podcast, I am fucking done for the rest of the day.
Oh yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then you could layer in the intranasal Nuopept instead of the oral with the modafinil. So 100 milligrams of oral modafinil and then about 10 milligrams of intranasal Nuopept, like I did right before the podcast, and you'll be focused and concentrated for a good amount of the day, but have your alpha GPC and acetylcholine or ketone bodies on the side. So as you're talking, if you notice yourself drifting, because you're burning through too much substrate, and then you could just pop a quick pill or take a quick shot.
Sure. So then after that, the next biggest concern was sleep. So we got a couple of things in here because, as we mentioned, is REM and deep sleep were terrible, but duration is actually fine. So the first thing was blue light blocking glasses brought in 2 to 3 hours before he goes to sleep, or about 2 hours before the sun goes down, whichever one is earlier in the day. Nicotine, just with an asterisk, we're aiming to bring this down over time. I kind of left that up to him at what rate he did that. He likes to go make big cuts, and that's okay. Caffeine, so what I said here was, if we want to modulate how much caffeine is being taken, what we're taking in the morning, if we take it alongside L-theanine, it should have a longer half-life and kind of carry him through the day a little bit more. If he is having caffeine later in the day, then to take 1 to 2 grams of vitamin C with it to try and shorten the half-life and the action of it so that it gets out of his system a little bit quicker. Some form of meditation, or I put there non-sleep deep rest, like the type of stuff Andrew Huberman has put on about in the evening. And then on top of that, as per our conversation a couple of weeks ago, we've added in dragon's blood and freshwater pearl powder at 1,000 milligrams each at night to try and bring up that REM and deep sleep. You mentioned it most likely being an inflammation issue, which makes a huge amount of sense here. And then on top of that, we have 800 milligrams of magnesium taurate and 20 milligrams of melatonin.
I really like that. If the sleep's not changing the way you want to, that's when you could microdose epitalin orally. We're talking about the one product. About 1 to 5 milligrams orally before bed tends to drive up circadian patterns, so you get better quality sleep, and your REM and deep go through the roof. You could also, if that maybe doesn't work because everyone metabolizes it differently, you could also go with a very, very low dose of MK677. So generally the growth hormone and somatic secretagogue, right? 5 milligrams or lower tends to drive up deep and REM pretty hard. Won't drive a lot of hunger, won't drive a lot of fluid retention, but just enough to push sleep. You can always go down one of those 2 routes.
How fast should I see that change?
Immediately. Like you'll feel it that night. Like you'll have a good night's sleep, and if you don't, either wasn't enough or you're not a good responder.
And that's MK677, you said acts that fast.
And epitalin.
Oh, and epitalin,
you'll notice it right away.
Well, I know I've noticed it within one night with the epitalin for sure.
Yeah, you're out.
Yeah, I was out, but it was also like I actually got a lot less sleep because I had to. I was kind of asleep at 11 and up at 3:30 or 4 or something. But I was like, I feel like I've had 8 hours.
Right?
It's
weird. Creepy.
Yeah, it was like, it was almost unnerving though, to the point where you're like, this can't last. Like I have to crash, and you're like, it's still not happening. Yeah, it won't.
So
that the epitalin is one that I think is very powerful. The other thing I did have on there is like a option B, whatever, was DSIP potentially to put in there as well. We have that as a thing to try, but as I've experienced, and you mentioned as well, it's like it can be a godsend or like
50-50.
a complete dud. So that I was there to try, but I thought, well, if it's only 50-50, try other things first.
Yeah, and honestly too, if you're at that point and everything's working good, you could try it upon waking and then get your first light exposure, walk outside the morning as the sun's rising. That's technically how DSIP is supposed to work, even though some people get that acute effect and fall asleep in 30 minutes. You can try it out one day and just see, because if you get a better sleep response that night, probably good to keep in like a couple hundred micrograms sub-Q upon waking.
All right.
Is that just because there's such a delayed response to it, or it's setting in circadian rhythm cascades that you feel the benefit of later?
Exactly. It's setting up nocturnal cascades. And technically, since you're trying to set clocks for the day, you need sun exposure. So if you time it with the sun setting, it doesn't seem to have the same neurochemical effect as you do is when the sun's actually rising. And that's more the nanometers, the photonic exchange, just the difference between morning sun and then evening sun.
Sure. So that was it in terms of supplementation. You know, other things that were potentially going to come in at some point was things like red light therapy, especially for his joints. But that was going to be like, let's get rid of the bigger rocks first. So, you know, I thought after the general inflammation and stuff has been brought down, we could maybe take that dragon's blood and pearls powder and start using that with red light therapy on his shoulders, which are I would say, should we say the most dysfunctional joints that you're dealing with? Something like that to be done probably straight after his bench sessions, which would you say usually aggravate them, so that we can try and make sure that they're not cumulatively building up a lot of inflammation and damage there.
You could even do, like, if you want to get a good 25% bump up right out of the gate, like any exosome therapies, anything like that, just so you can get like initial recovery window. Is that something like you guys talked about? Or?
We haven't done that yet, no.
Okay.
This is early stages now, so this is good. So see where the path's going.
Yeah, because, I mean, although you can let the thing slowly build up, you could also get an initial jump up, which just generally drives up motivation. And then it's just easier because if you can train a little bit smarter, a little bit harder, get more work done, that's half the battle, right? And it makes you want to keep doing these therapies. So like exosome therapy, generally once you get all the inflammation, all the damage under control, but one time a quarter for like longevity benefits. So literally 4 times a year. Ideally, again, depending on where you get it done, about 10 billion exosomes to start off with. And usually before that, we want to have a weekly protocol beforehand because exosomes, again, go in and clear up cellular damage. If there's damage in your shoulder, I'd rather have it go in and fix your heart. So it's going to go to the shoulder first, heart last. So what we would want to do is do a bigger protocol of peptides during that week beforehand, clear out senescent cells, and then have the exosome therapy. So you go in feeling pretty good. There's no shoulder pain, no head pain, no foot pain. It'll go straight to the heart. It'll go straight to the organs because that's where I think, like, although exosomes can heal the shoulder, I'd rather see it fix the heart because if your shoulder goes, that's okay. Heart goes, you're dead. Yeah. So I'd rather push it to put more years on your life.
Yeah. Sure. So like an initial thought here was once that sleep quality improves, the general inflammation goes down, all that's in a better place. Yeah, maybe for the shoulder specifically, looking at bringing in maybe like microdosing BPC, TB500, maybe even like GH or even homolog with it in the shoulders, you know, twice a week or something like that around when the shoulders are trained to help bring that down.
So if you, okay, a couple of, I'll list a couple because there's a lot of things you can put in here. Pentosan polysulfate, that's a big one that is used to actually regenerate cartilage tissue, regenerate soft tissue. It's used in, it's started off as the anti-arthritic drug over in Australia, popularized over here. We used to use it in the racehorse med world all the time for camels. Yeah, you remember, right?
I know what it is.
Right, exactly. So pentosan polysulfate, layer that in with Cardilax to drive a little bit more recovery. Those are all dependent upon the somatropic axis, so a little bit of exogenous growth hormone. That's dependent upon the insulinogenic axis. So maybe some exogenous insulin or metformin or something to drive more insulin sensitivity. Those 4 will cover your bases. Then on top of that, if you want more stem cell migration, GHKCU, and then you're kind of like, okay, I got 17 things that's valid, I don't want anything else, you can stop. Or you can layer on TB and BPC as well. But usually those first 4 for a problem like that that's been there for so long, you probably need a little bit more push in the right direction. And you already have the BPC coming in for the heart later on anyway.
Yeah, sure. Again, would red light therapy again be best used there straight? Would that have more still benefit with those compounds?
Yes. So red and near infrared. So what we're trying to do, best case scenario, you'll occlude the area. So occlude it 10 minutes just to get more blood into the shoulder. There will be some accumulation in there of carbon dioxide as well, more oxygenation in the area. Pin the peptides and then keep it occluded and then put it in red and near infrared. The red is more the topical player. We want more of the near infrared, get more of the deep mitochondrial players, get more of the cell-to-cell interactions. 10, 20 minutes, and then pull everything off and do that every day before bed. Sweet. Basically, or 5 days per week, whatever matches with your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you know where you're going.
I know.
The next couple of months now. That's it. That's everything that's on there for now. So that is giving us a lot more direction for the next couple of months.
And
thank you.
HRT is all baseline. Where's that all at? If you're okay talking about
400 milligrams testosterone cypionate. That is what I need to be able to maintain it. I'm kind of the same boat. 40 years of taking shit. You know, if it gets any lower, it's just a dump. Now If it is a heavier day, depending upon how physically the training is laid out, there will be some oral compound, the night before or the day of that heavy lift.
Okay.
It's infrequent, but it is part of that.
Okay. 10 milligrams, 50 milligrams?
50.
Okay.
Dude, Tudka and something like that coming in there with it.
I'm not even thinking about that. I'm trying to think why are you taking it for that next day? What's the action you need out of it? Is it pure driver on energetics? Is it strength driving?
Strength driving.
Okay. And you get that, can you say what compound it is?
Typically it's going to be Anadrol.
Okay. Okay.
Right? Sometimes I'll mess around with halotestin, but sometimes I don't know which person's going to come out when I take that.
Yeah.
I know what comes out with the Anadrol. I do not know what's going to come out with the other one.
Okay. I got you.
So
although you can't replace the retentive nature of an Anadrol ionically, we still can bring in some other place and see if we can get close to that. Because 2 times per week, that's not that big a deal. It's not cause any long-term problems. But if you want to try maybe out the DADAs, the carnitine cholines, because carnitine choline pre-workout will drive that neurological voltage really hard.
That's what I'm looking for more than anything else. The aggressiveness and all that, I have no problem with that.
So
it's more neural drive.
Okay.
There is a difference.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So then swap out that Anadrol for about 300 milligrams of carnitine, 2 milligrams of choline. Try that intramuscular pre-workout, 5-10 minutes pre-workout, and just see how you feel for that day. There's a couple things we could bring in there, but that'd be like the easiest swap if you're trying to.
Yeah, it would be a healthier swap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was going to say it, but.
If it were a case of like when he's getting in the suit and needing more retention, if the Anadrol comes out, but like a lower dose of like Humalog or something comes in, alongside the meal that happens before or something like that, would you see that being able to mimic that closely?
That, or even the acute growth hormone exogenously, or even the night before a bigger bolus of NK, because MK6A7 will pull a good amount of fluid if you dose it higher. So technically, those should be less down-regulatory on health patterns than like an Anadrol.
Cool.
So if you want to go that route, you have some options. Sweet. Some Chinese buffet the night before, all the sodium. Just blow up.
I worry a little bit about that just because of the heart. Right. I don't want to
I was kidding.
a ton of extra water retention around the heart and then have the issues because of that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Thank you guys. And Tom will have a series where he's doing case studies on people that he's working with.
A+.
Yep. A+. Very good. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.